Well, a lot of my education was in similar areas. So I not only do I understand a lot of the DLPFC and medial PFC and that kind of stuff,
cool.
but I also know that this is the how of how we dream.
Yeah.
And then there is a possible, I'm not sure if there is one, why.
Why do we dream?
Right? And so there is a physicalist view, which is, there's this biochemical activity that happens in the neuronal space and that produces this effect.
Yep.
And then what's different about a dream is that it's not, the content is not filled with meaning, but it's still a meaningful experience.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so there is a metaphysical aspect to it. So there is the physical aspect as to how it happens and then why it happens. What is the meaning of it? Why am I experiencing what I'm experiencing? And I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on that, because I have a lot of questions.
Like, why do we dream? Right?
Yeah.
Big question. So one answer, and this is somebody that I knew, Alan Hobson, very eminent, one of the top dream researchers of the last 100 years. He had a theory that was interesting. He said, look, you have all these parts of the brain turning on and off, and the neurochemistry is changing as well. Some of the neurochemicals are changing as well. And we can get into that. For example, noradrenaline shuts off. The neurons producing noradrenaline shuts off completely. And noradrenaline is this chemical involved in focused and thinking in a focused manner and being sort of linear in your thinking. And so because you're not linear, but things are becoming spacey because of that. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. So instead of a linear experience, it's a surreal experience. It floats through events.
It
It's not
floats,
serialized.
things are floating.
Right.
And that has to do with noradrenaline being absent. When you are stressed and you have a lot of noradrenaline in your brain, you are hyper serial and hyper restrained.
Right.
And so it creates that unrestrained nature of the dream space.
Right.
So, okay, coming to your question now. Why? What's going on? Why are you, why do we dream, right? So one theory by Alan Hobson, his early theory was, well, the brain is just trying to make sense of all these fireworks, all this strange activity in the brainstem and various parts firing. The brain is just trying to say, look, I am putting together a narrative. I want to create a story around this. By the way, the hippocampus, meaning the memory part of the brain, is also hyperactive in dreams, which is unsurprising. You are highly, let's say, creating stories all the time, building narratives. So your brain is saying, look, I have all this bizarre activity going on. Let me create a narrative around this. Let me try to account for the fact that that I'm flying on a spaceship right now, which has to do with the vestibular system, or things are illogical, which has to do with the DLPFC shutting down, or the fact that things are emotional, which has to do with the fact that the limbic center is overactive. Let me account for this. And we know this from neuroscience that the brain overall always tries to make these post hoc explanations for the neurochemical and like this functional activity of the brain. It always tries to say, look, let me try to account for the weird bizarreness. So this is not new in neuroscience. We know this. So this is one theory. But honestly, it's not completely clear. It doesn't account for the whole dream experience. And I'll tell you why. One account that I feel is much more interesting is the fact that dreams are a type of threat simulation system, meaning we dream because it allows us to test various scenarios in a
simulated fashion
in a laboratory that's free of any fatal consequences, a testing space that's free of death, right? So if you see yourself in your dream running from an alligator, jumping over this river and taking a spear and spearing an animal, you don't have to do this in real life in order to learn. You learn much faster by simulating that in your brain, by having experiences like that in the brain and experiencing that makes you much more likely to survive in the real world. So it gives you sort of an edge, especially you think about the man in the savannah, 70,000 years ago, how he was living. So having an extra, 10
virtual
hours, 8 hours,
yeah,
virtual reality where you can experience that, how powerful is that? Because whenever we actually use certain circuits, the more solidified the circuits become in the brain, they sort of become crystallized.
Right.
So this is a chance for crystallizing, and utilizing this time. The brain is never vague. It never wastes time. Biology never wastes time because it's all about your survival and passing on your genes. So why waste this dreaming time? So this is, I think, a brilliant idea. That it's threat simulation. That's what it's about. And there's evidence now that people who are in traumatized scenarios, let's say they live like in a Gaza situation or they are in a war situation, they actually literally have more sort of threatening dreams, and they will have more nightmares as well and threatening dreams. So they have more of this threat simulation going on. But overall, dreams and REM dreams are more negative. They're tilted slightly to the negative. And as well, we know that beyond this tilting to the negative, there's also a lot of people in dreams. So dreams tend to be very social. So there's a social element, and the social interactions often are very negative as well. So it's about, how do I learn to interact with people in a socially appropriate manner, and specifically more so negative situations. So it suits me better as a person to see myself, running from a serial killer and surviving that and navigating that situation versus having a romantic fling, which is more fun, obviously, but it doesn't have the same survival edge. So there's as I said, a lot of people in your dreams, and it has to do with the fact that the theory of mind systems in the brain are hyperactive. You know what theory of mind?
Of course.
Concept?
Yeah.
So we have in the brains regions that are involved in sort of taking other people's perspective and thinking, what is this person thinking right now? What is he up to? What is his agenda? This is called theory of mind modules in the brain, mainly in the frontal lobe, but also in the parietal regions. So these regions also tend to be highly activated in dreams, and so you have a lot of people in your dreams.
Right. So one of the theories that you mentioned is effectively there is electrical discharge, and then the electrical discharge produces experiential discharge in a way where I either see, smell, taste, feel, operate in physical environments in my dream state. And that's one theory.
That's one theory.
The other one is this simulated negative experiences. So you're kind of building behavioral cache on what to do in situations that are not friendly or threatful or one of those, right?
Yep.
And there is reportage on the fact that most dreams tend to be negative. Like, is that a study that we've done?
That's found, yeah.